Hey guys, it's Karen, my review for the second season of Cobra Kai. And what this season is essentially about is, as we know, Daniel has now opened up his own school called Miyagi-Do. He is training, Robbie and now his daughter as well. And then we also have, of course, Cobra Kai. And, well, basically at this point, the two schools are fighting, while simultaneously Gianni is figuring out whether or not he wants to bring John Kreese back into his life to Cobra Kai, and basically the rest of this season is the two of them, fighting for power in that way. You have Miyagi-Do, and then you have Cobra Kai, and they're very much fighting, but also them hopefully trying to settle their differences, and that's really all I'm going to say. So Cobra Kai Season 2 overall, I was very excited for this season. I mean, Season 1 really surprised me. I think it probably was the most surprising show of last year. I wasn't really expecting much of anything from it, and I ended up loving it. I thought it was a really great way of, paying tribute to Karate Kid, but also ushering in a new generation of fans, telling a really great story, and actually grounding it in reality a bit, and I think they did a very good job with that. And considering the way Season 1 left off, I was very excited to see how that would play out in Season 2, but I also was a little worried because of how good Season 1 was, and especially considering that the first Karate Kid, I'm not a huge fan of the movie, but a lot of people really do love that movie, and they said it really did go off the rails in, 2 and 3, so I was hoping that Cobra Kai Season 2 wouldn't do that, and I will say this, is Cobra Kai Season 2 as good as Season 1? No, it definitely has some significant issues for sure, but I still really do like this season, and there is still a lot to like about it, and we're just getting into right now, starting off with the cast. And I will say this right now, all of the acting that was great in Season 1, it is very good here. In fact, I do think some of them are a little bit better. Let's first talk about Ralph Macchio, who, he was so good in Season 1. I really loved what he did there. And then Season 2, I think he honestly is even better. This is a different type of Daniel. This is a Daniel that isn't nearly as wary about karate. In fact, he is in full force. This is what he cares about. He wants to try to, get he wants to try to get a bunch of students that care about karate and inspire them the way that Miyagi did for him, but you also see he's trying to find a way to do it so he's not just copying what Miyagi did, and I really did love seeing that. I thought that Macchio had some really great scenes. He gets a little bit more to do this season in terms of dramatic stuff, and he really handles that very well, particularly in the back half of the season. He has some real standout work, and I was very impressed with him here, as I was in Season 1. But once again, the standout of the entire season has to be William Zabka as Johnny. And look, I know, we all really loved him in Season 1, but he still is fantastic here. He still has a lot to do. This Johnny Lawrence is someone who he's trying to progress more. He's trying to, become a better person because he knows that he wasn't really a great person. He knows he wasn't in a good state of mind, and he knows that he ruined a lot of Cobra Kai. So he really is trying to work on his reputation. He's trying to, get more in tune with the generation overall, and I really did love seeing that. I liked what Zabka did. He has this one moment, though, in the finale that I thought was just absolutely phenomenal, and I thought he had some real great work throughout the season, and he really did do a great job. And the interplay between him and Daniel, they give them a lot more to do in terms of their sort of rivalry that's going on. We saw it in Season 1, but it was quite sporadic, and that is in full force in Season 2, and I really love getting to see that. These two have very good chemistry. They work very well together, and I thought they both were very good here. Someone else I do have to highlight, though, because I was a little bit worried about him, is Martin Kove as John Kreese. Now, of course, I haven't seen Karate Kid Part 2 and Karate Kid Part 3, but the one constant that I hear is that Martin Kove is very over-the-top and cheesy in those movies, and he is the main reason why that series got so silly. So, again, I was a little bit worried on what they were going to do, but I also knew how grounded the show was, and I was hoping that they could take his character and make him a little more grounded, and for the most part, they do. Now, there are parts where, yes, Kreese can be very cheesy and, mustache twirling, but for the most part, this is a much more grounded Kreese. You understand where he's coming from. He is very menacing. He appears to be, you know, a little bit more reformed, but you can always tell there's something more looming there. You can always tell that he's not very trustworthy, and he is a very good villain in this season. I really liked where he ended up going. I thought he had some real great work, and I was overall very impressed by him. Like I said, I was a little bit tentative, but I thought he did a very good job here. As far as the rest of the cast goes, everyone else does a very good job. Xolo Maridueña, as back as Miguel, still does a very good job in this role. I still really liked what he brought to the table. He doesn't necessarily play the role I expect him to. I'll get more into that with the writing, but I still really did like him here. Mary Mauser has so much more to do this season as Samantha, and I thought she was great here. I love the character of Sam. I love where they end up taking her. She really has this great range to her, and I was very impressed by her this season. Tanner Buchanan's also very good as Robbie. I do want to highlight, though, Jacob Bertrand as Hawk and Gianni Decenzo as Dimitri. These two have a lot more to do, and I really love them this season. Hawk works as the sort of kid that was friends with Miguel, but has kind of gone down a dark path, and you can see how this is starting to hurt him. You can see the impact it's having on him, and I thought he did a very good job. And then Gianni Decenzo as Dimitri just provides some great comedic relief. I thought he was absolutely hysterical throughout the season. He could have gotten really annoying, but he knew when to ride the line between just being really over the top and silly, and then wanting to be more grounded, and I thought he did a very good job for sure. The one performance, though, that I wasn't a fan of, though, unfortunately, was Peyton List in this show, and I've honestly never really been that much of a fan of her. I never really liked her on Jesse all that much. I always thought she was pretty bad on that, and that's kind of the same here. Now, I will say, she's not terrible throughout this entire season. There are parts of the show where I didn't think she was that bad, but when she kind of functions as this sort of secondary antagonist, and whenever she tries to play it up more, it is extremely unconvincing and honestly can get kind of cringy at points, and I just was not a huge fan of her. Aside from her, though, the entire cast here is still very good. Courtney Hangler also does a very good job, even though she's not in this season as much, and overall, I was still very impressed with the cast here. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, which that's where some of my main complaints lie, is that this season is not nearly as well directed as I think last season was. And that's the last season, again, yes, it had dramatic moments, but it was mainly a dramedy. And this season in general, it's a lot more serious. It takes itself more seriously than season one, and that's for good and for bad. In some ways it is a good thing because they're able to tell a much more compelling story. They're able to get a lot more out of these characters, and they do a very good job with it. There are some dramatic moments that work incredibly well, particularly this one direction towards the end of the season that absolutely floored me. I'm not going to get into it too much, but they did some great stuff there. And the comedy still is there too, and it is handled well, but there are parts where I do think this season gets a little too overly dramatic, and I don't think the tone is quite as good as season one, but still, it's an enjoyable show. It never veered too far off course, but I didn't think it was as well balanced as season one was. And then the writing, that's where my few problems with the season really do lie. Now, the main conflict is very well done. The whole idea of, there being Miyagi-Do and there also being Cobra Kai, they do a very good job of establishing both of these dojos. For Daniel, this is more something that he wants to do for people to get their aggression out. He wants this to be a thing for them to do to release the tension. He wants to be able to do for his daughter, for other kids, what Mr. Miyagi was able to do for him. He wants to try to instill those lessons into another generation, and they do a very good job with that, whereas Gianni, he is really trying to improve the reputation of Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai, and at this point, it's left a very sour taste in people's mouths because of the way the last match went, so he really is trying to improve it and make it better and try to, give them better lessons than he did before, and I really did love what they did with that. And of course, Kreese is conflicting with that, because Kreese, he doesn't view the karate as, simply just a hobby. hobby. He views it as a lifestyle, and again, they do a very good job establishing that main conflict. Again, the rivalry that Gianni and Daniel have, you can understand why they do have it, and that could have come across as very redundant, but again, they did a very good job of showing this is why Gianni feels this way, this is why Daniel feels this way, and this is why these two, no matter what they do, they can't seem to get along, and you see how that works out, and I think they did a very good job with that. And when it comes to our characters in general, they do have a lot more going on. Like I said, Johnny's whole arc of the season is not just him trying to repair Cobra Kai and fix its image. It's also him, being very tense about whether or not to trust John Kreese, because Kreese shows up, they have this fight, but Kreese then tells him, like, he wants to try to turn things around. And Johnny, he wants to believe that since he has been able to change, maybe he should give him a second chance as well. And I thought there was definitely a very interesting storyline. The way it goes, it is predictable where it ends up going, but it makes sense for Johnny's character because, again, Johnny is someone who he is trying to turn himself around, and he thinks that maybe Kreese is trying to do the same thing. And you can understand why Johnny would make some of the choices he does because of that. And I thought they handled that well. But my favorite thing about Johnny's arc easily was the Miguel and Johnny relationship. I really loved where they ended up going with that. These two are a lot closer in season 1. They have this very good bond with each other. They really established that very well in season 1, but you can see how Johnny is trying to deepen that. He really does see Miguel as this son that he's never had, and I thought it was even better here, because in season 1, I mean, he was giving him all this bad advice and things like that, and season 2, it feels a lot more genuine. It feels like this is something that Johnny genuinely wants to happen. He genuinely does care about Miguel, and that's something I definitely really did like seeing, and when you contrast that with how Daniel feels with Ravi, and how he is trying to help him out, how he's giving him a second chance, and the budding relation between Ravi and Sam, all of that is really great, and I definitely think they did a very good job with that, and I really like seeing, again, the way they apply, karate to these different relationships, and I think that's just something that is handled very well here. You knew, obviously, Sam was going to get back into karate, but you really do see how this helps her out, and I think they did a very good job with that for sure. However, that does lead me to my main complaint with this season, and that is that I just think there's a little too much going on. Going back to Miguel, if you remember the way they left off season 1, which, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen it, it's been a year, but if you haven't seen season 1 of Cobra Kai, I'm going to get into some spoilers here, of course, they ended the season, and it seemed like Miguel was heading in the direction of becoming a villain. Like, he was deliberately showing no mercy. He was doing everything that Johnny was saying. He was taking it literally, and it was really ruining his reputation. Sam broke up with him because of it, and it really seemed like he was heading in the direction of possibly becoming an antagonist, and this was going to hurt him rather than help him. And without really spoiling anything, they kind of abandoned that in season 2. They don't really go in that direction at all, and I was a little bit disappointed by that. Instead, they give that arc to the character of Hawk. Hawk is the one who you can tell he is going dark. He has been affected by Cobra Kai in a negative way, and you can see what it's doing to him, while Miguel, on the other hand, he is much more good-natured, and I think they did a very good job with that, but it also works against him, because the character of Miguel, because that he just doesn't have a lot to do this season. He has stuff to do, for sure, but a lot of it is just him trying to win back Sam's affections, and eventually he gets into this relation with this girl, Tori, and that's when things, really did go downhill, because I just did not really care about the teen drama going on this season. I really loved it in season 1. I thought they definitely did a very good job with it. Here, it just was a little too cheesy, and I don't think it was nearly as well handled, especially when it comes to this rivalry between Sam and Tori, where they end up going with that. It just didn't really work, and it's not because of the fact that it's not written well. Again, it's mainly the Tori character, who is just very confusing, because on one hand, it seems like she is trying to be genuine. We find out that, she wasn't very financially stable, and her mom had to work at this restaurant and things like that, and because of that, it's hardened her a bit, and you can understand where she's coming from there. But then you have scenes between her and Sam where she's basically just a flat-out cartoon character, and it was very hard to take her seriously in those moments, and it just didn't really work for me. I get what they were trying to do, but it just overcomplicated things, and anytime we went back to it, I just wasn't nearly as into it. Again, I like the Sam character, I like the Robbie character, I like seeing the drama that was going on there, but just the Sam and Tori of it all, it just did not work nearly as well for me as I think it could have, and again, it mainly is due to Tori's character, which just in general, she feels very confusing. She comes way too late into the season, and the way that she acts around Sam especially, it just makes you question, like, why would Miguel want to be with someone like this? Why would he buy into this? Like, is she even being truthful? And she was just a very confusing character overall. So that really is where my main problem with the season lies, is mainly that plot line. What I did really like, though, is the expansion of Hawk and Dimitri's character. Despite the fact that I was initially disappointed that Hawk basically took what I thought was going to be Miguel's storyline, they do a very good job with this. You understand the relationship that Hawk and Dimitri used to have. I really love where they ended up going with it. Hawk, in general, he's both a character that you loathe, but also one you feel really bad for because of what has happened to him, because of the dark turn he's taking, and what this is, how this is affecting him and things like that, and I thought they did a very good job with that. So that stuff I really did like. I like the expansion we get on Hawk and Dimitri's characters. I didn't think I was going to at first, but where they took it was genuinely very interesting, and that's something that I really did enjoy. So again, the writing, it is good here for sure. It is definitely very well done. I just think it's a little bit overstuffed this season. There's a lot going on, and sometimes it felt like that there was a lot for them to juggle, and I don't think it was nearly as, the writing in general, it didn't feel as well written as Season 1 did. This season also is a lot more predictable, up until the end. I will say that. Up until the end, this season is very predictable. Where it ends up going, a lot of the things you expect to happen do happen. Again, minus this one direction they do take at the end of the season, which completely just, I was stunned where they ended up going. I'll talk about that in the spoilers, but that really is the only, like, real detriment of this season. But again, the season can still be a lot of fun. There's some great comedic relief provided by the character of Dimitri, who I just loved. He's so nerdy, and he has a ton of references, but again, you really do get to like this character. It never becomes too, there's never an overabundance of it. It never really feels like they're too reliant on him for humor, and they do a very good job with that. And also this character of Stingray, he is this new student in Cobra Kai that is an adult. He is much older than all of the other, students that are in there, and he was hysterical. Where they end up taking him, I loved. There's one moment especially that just had me absolutely dying, and I loved where they went with that. And there are some callbacks to the original movie, one in particular that I think people are going to get a real kick out of, that I myself didn't catch at first, but then reading, YouTube comments and things like that, I was like, oh, that's actually really clever. I really love where they end up going with that, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that as well. In terms of cinematography, I will say the fight choreography this season, it feels a little too rehearsed at times, and I understand, obviously, that there's two dojos here, so that's understandable, but there's a lot more karate this season, and, Season 1, they definitely had quite a bit, but Season 2, they really doubled down the karate, and some of it is really well done. There's this great fight at the mall that I thought was just great, but then there are moments where it just feels a little too overly choreographed, and you're like, is this really something that they would come up with organically? It just, some of it didn't really work for me. Some of it I think did go on a little bit too long, but the cinematography overall, the show still looks really good. I think it definitely is filmed very well. There are some really stunning scenes, and they still do a very good job with that for sure. In terms of the score, not really too much to say, though. There's one musical cue, though, towards the end that I think everyone is going to absolutely adore, and I definitely loved it for sure. And the editing, I don't think the season was nearly as well paced as season 1. Some things, like I said, they felt a little rushed. The Tori character especially, she came way too late into the season, I think. And I do think that the season would have actually benefited if they had a couple more episodes to fully flesh out this conflict, because some things just feel a little bit rushed here and there. But with all that out of the way, now I really do want to get into spoilers, because trust me, there is a lot to talk about here. If you have not seen Season 2 of Cobra Kai, please go away, because I thought Season 1 had a lot. No, Season 2, there's even more, and we're just going to get into it. So, I first want to talk about the whole story between Sam, Tori, Robbie, and Miguel, because I want to clarify something. Again, I do not dislike the idea of Sam and Robbie being together. That was naturally going to happen, you know, especially having Daniel have Robbie come live with them. Obviously, the attraction between Sam and Robbie, it is going to grow. You expect that those two do end up together, and they do. I don't have a problem with that, and Miguel, you know, sort of, still having feelings for Sam, that's understandable. I liked where they end up going with that. Again, it was the Tori of it all. I just did not believe that Miguel really cared about her as much as he let on. She just seems so fake to me. When she's telling, one second, you know, she's telling him the story about her mom and all this, you know, stuff that they had to go through, the hardships they had to encounter. And maybe that is true, but then you have a moment where she literally pushes Sam, and then Sam pushes her, causing her to get, you know, kicked out of that ice skating rink or whatever, and it just felt very forced. It just didn't really work for me, and I don't really love where they end up taking that. The Sam and Tori stuff at first I thought was just way too over the top, especially up till that hallway fight. I thought it was way too over the top. The certain dialogue that they gave her, it did not work for me. I did really like the Robbie and Miguel conflict, though. That made a lot of sense, especially considering that Robbie could sense that Miguel did still love Sam, and he wanted to try to preclude him from interacting with her as much as he possibly could, and you could see that Robbie really did fuck up there. And I heard a lot of people say, oh, they're trying to villainize Robbie. I didn't see it as that. I saw it as he genuinely doesn't like Miguel. He genuinely doesn't want Miguel around, and he's become way too controlling of Sam, and I really like where they end up going with that, but that's not really the point of this season. That's not what they're trying to illustrate, because we know we have that hallway scene, which at first, that's one of the moments I thought, this is way too rehearsed, this is way too overly choreographed, and that didn't really work for me as much. But then, of course, we have the moment. We have the moment where Tori, she has those claws, and, you know, she has, like, that blade or whatever, and she ends up severely scratching Sam's arm. It looks like she had to get like stitches and shit, and that's of course not the big moment. The big moment is when Robbie and Miguel are fighting, and it gets so bad to the point where Robbie literally throws Miguel off the balcony, and we don't know if Miguel is going to be okay, and that was extremely shocking. I did not think they were going to take it in that dark of a direction, but it makes a lot of sense for these characters. I mean, again, because of what Daniel and Gianni have taught them, they feel this is acceptable. They feel that this is the way to solve things. They need to solve things through fighting. They need to solve things with violence. And obviously, because of Kreese, you know, encouraging them to fight dirty and encouraging them to show no mercy, you can see this is having, you can see that this has made them even tougher. It's really making them a lot more rough than they were. And it's not like, you know, Sam and all of them were being easy on them. They definitely weren't, but Cobra Kai especially, I mean, they've just gone way too overpowered, and that was deliberate. And that's the thing I did like, is that it turned out a lot of the things that were complaints at first were in fact deliberate, and that really leads to the overall message of the season, which is that the fighting that Gianni and Daniel have been doing is actually not a good thing. It actually is having a negative effect on these characters, and they need to maybe stop doing that. And I love the moment where, Amanda just tells Daniel, look, this needs to stop. You can't do this anymore. And you can understand, obviously, her frustration because of the car thing, which that was my other complaint. That whole subplot with him basically sidestepping the whole, his actual job at the car insurance, and him not really taking that as seriously. That felt very half-baked. It really felt very inconsequential, and it just didn't really feel like it was that big a part of the season until maybe like episode 7 or 8. But you can understand Amanda's frustration because of that. And again, it makes sense why she is so adamant about him leaving. It no longer feels like she's just being very shrill and controlling. No, you can actually see where she's coming from here, and I think they did a very good job with that overall. And as far as Kreese goes, like I said, where he ends up going, it's very predictable. At first, Gianni thinks that, oh, we can trust this guy. Sure, he is, he's trying to turn things around, but you realize that a lot of the same tendencies, him being much more rough on them, trying to get them to, show no mercy and things like that, be a lot more violent, not holding back in fights. You can see that definitely is still there. But again, because Gianni is genuinely trying to help him out, and, Kreese has done a good job, you can see for a while it seemed like Gianni wasn't going to waver. It didn't seem like Gianni was really that worried about it, but I like that eventually he was like, you know what, this is enough. I've had enough of this. I can't believe, especially when he finds out about the dojo and things like that. You can see how genuinely pissed he is at Kreese, and how heartbroken he is as well. I think he really was genuinely ready to give him a second chance. He believed that maybe he could reform him. Maybe Kreese was trying to turn things around, but he completely deceived him, and you can see how much this has hurt Gianni, and also how much he's upset that the impact it's had on his students. And I think they did a very good job with that. And that moment, of course, at the end where, he lets Kreese have the dojo. This is not Gianni saying, like, yeah, you deserve the dojo. It's, I don't deserve this dojo. I don't deserve what it's become. I don't want any part of what it's become. You're the reason why everyone has become so overly violent, and you're the one that is going to, pay the price for it. Obviously, Gianni at this point, he seems pretty done, and I really do like where that's going. I think moving forward, Kreese is going to be a formidable foe, but I think at the same time, Gianni isn't really going to care. I think at this point, he's just going to let Kreese get what he wants, because he's realizing that Cobra Kai is just not good for him. It is a burden in that way to many of these students. Also, like I said, I really like where they took the Hawk and Dimitri characters. The whole idea of Hawk basically losing everything. He loses his girlfriend, who turns out to be bisexual, which that was a really nice surprise. I like where they end up taking that. The fact that he doesn't have Dimitri anymore, and the fact that in general, he just has gotten way too overconfident, and it's not because of Cobra Kai, it's because of Kreese. Kreese is the one who is enabling him to be this way. Kreese is the one who made him trash the dojo, and I really like where they took that story. Again, I really do believe that's what Miguel was supposed to have in this season, but because of the work they did with the Hawk character, they made it convincing. They made it work, and the fight between Hawk and Dimitri was devastating. You don't want to see these two characters fight. Sure, Dimitri's cracking a lot of fun lines, but it's sad to see these two, who were once best friends, them fighting against each other. And you really do see that Hawk, he unfortunately has just been brainwashed by Kreese, and it doesn't seem like he's going to change anytime soon, and you really do see that here. However, the moment that really did get me in this finale is the stuff between Gianni and Miguel. I mean, the scene where he realizes that Miguel is in trouble, and you can tell he's trying to hold back his crying. I mean, that right there is just masterclass acting. That's why William Zabka is always a standout on this show. Moments like that, I mean, he just nails it, and I loved where they end up going with that. Such fantastic stuff there, and I love the moment where he basically says, you know what, I'm done. He lets Kreese have the dojo. He realizes that Cobra Kai is not good for any of these students. We see Tori's still there, Hawk is still there, a lot of them are still there, but he himself is veering away from Cobra Kai. He doesn't want to be there anymore, and I think the direction they're taking him, it seems like him and Daniel are going to team up. It seems like they're going to try to make something better out of what they've already created and try to put this feud aside. And I hope they're able to do that. It seemed like they were starting to, you know, get on good terms with each other, get into each other's good graces, but then this really fractured it. You know, Sam getting drunk and having to staying over at, you know, Gianni's house instead of telling Daniel. You could see that really did affect him, but I think this is really going to bring these two together in a very exciting way. And the way this ends, where, you know, Gianni's just really pissed. He throws his phone into the sand, and we realize that who is calling him? It turns out he finally gets a response from Allie. Allie turns out to actually be a nurse. It seems like she is going to help Miguel and possibly Sam, and yes, it confirms that Elizabeth Shue is coming back next season. Allie is going to be in the next season, and I cannot wait to see where they're going there. Now, again, I don't want her to be a love interest for Gianni. I don't want them to take it there. I actually want them to expand on the Gianni and Carmen relationship. I thought that was very sweet. I liked where it was going. However, based on what happened with Miguel, it's going to take a lot to win back her trust for sure because of course, what ended up happening. You know, I don't know if Carmen is going to just, you know, put that aside so easily, but we'll have to see the way that really does turn out. But again, I love that basically they confirmed that Allie is going to be in next season. She has been a character. You know, Johnny's brought her up a few times, but this is the first time she's actually going to be a character in the show, and I cannot wait to see what they do with that. So overall, like I said, a lot of my complaints with season 2, while they still somewhat affected this season, a lot of them were fixed here. The more overly choreographed fights and things like that, the feud between Sam and Tori feeling way too rushed, what it eventually ended up building up to, you know, the event that we saw was genuinely very shocking, and it made a lot of sense for what they're trying to do. The show is not trying to say that karate is a good thing for these kids. If anything, it's saying that, yes, it worked for Gianni and Daniel, but it is having a negative effect on their children, and they need to pull back. If they want to continue what they're doing, they need to handle this differently. They need to go about this in a different way, and I'm excited to see where they end up taking that in season 3 overall. I don't think Miguel's going to die. I think he is going to be paralyzed for sure. I think definitely something is going, I mean, an injury like that where it was so severe, and I mean, they even told, you know, they even told Carmen that his injuries were very critical, so I don't think they're going to kill Miguel off. I mean, it would not be satisfying. I would not want them to go in that direction, but I do think he is going to be very severely injured from this, and we'll have to see where that's going to go. Robbie next season, I think, is probably going to feel a lot of guilt for what he did. Obviously, Sam and him are going to be in a very interesting place for sure. I think she's going to not resent him necessarily, but she's definitely going to, it's definitely going to cause problems for their relationship, and I don't really know where that's going to go. Tori and Miguel, I feel like they're done. I don't feel like we're going back to that at all. Hopefully we don't go back to that, because like I said, I just was not into that relationship at all. But again, I like where they're going with season 3. It's a genuinely very interesting direction. I did not expect the show to go here at all, and I really do applaud them for that. A lot of this season was predictable, but this was the one thing in the season that really hooked me in and made me realize, holy shit, this is actually the point they've been trying to underline all season, and for some reason it's been going over my head, and I thought they did a very good job with that here. So overall, guys, while Cobra Kai Season 2 I don't think is as good as the first one, there's still a lot of great stuff in there. The relationships that we care about, you know, of course, Miguel and Gianni, Daniel's relationship with Robbie, and also Robbie and Sam's relationship, that's really well done. The feud between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do and the ways they try to one-up each other, all of that is very good. There are some really great comedic moments provided by Dimitri and by Stingray as well. I thought they did a very good job with that. The season, again, it can feel a little bit more heavy-handed at points. There definitely are moments that feel like they were a little rushed, and there is that one subplot that I just did not care about at all. But other than that, I still thought this was a genuinely very good season. Again, the way they set things up for season 3, I'm very interested in seeing where it's going to go. It's a very shocking ending for sure, but season 3, it pits it in a very different direction season. And considering that some of the season it did feel a little bit too more of the same, I think it's actually a really great idea that season 3 is going to be basically uncharted territory, and I'm excited to see where they end up taking it for sure. This is still a very well done show, and even though, like I said, it's not as good as season 1, it really does not take away from how good of a show it really is. I still really did enjoy the season overall, and I am going to give Cobra Kai season 2 a B. So, overall, guys, my review of Season 2 of Cobra Kai. Let me know what you guys saw this season overall. Left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.